Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot, where I try to make sense out of the nonsense of the progressive left and rhino right. I'm your host, Myron Ybarra. Well, I really don't even know where or even how to begin this episode. The reason I don't know is because this episode is the beginning of the end of a chapter here at the Office of the Patriot. Because, well, I'm closing up shop. I don't want to shut down because this is something I really love doing. I've said it before. Following my retirement from law enforcement, I made a promise to myself that I would never do anything for work that I didn't absolutely enjoy. And this is very true of the Office of the Patriot. But there comes a point in time where you have to, look at the writing on the wall. I mean, even if it's scribble. And you have to admit when you've been beat, and I have. Because after this episode, there will be no more regular uploads from the Office of the Patriot. Okay, I'm going to get into why I've come to this difficult decision, but in order to do that, I need to go back and let you know why I actually started this crazy idea in the first place. The Office of the Patriot has been around since June 2022. I believe my first video was uploaded June 2nd, 2022. I started this channel because I really enjoy talking about politics from a conservative perspective, and because there's enough stupid liberal people to highlight, there was no shortage of material. So I figured it was a no-brainer, right? I mean, I'm already a lecturer, and with just a little smidge of modesty, I'm a pretty good one at that. However, while it may seem like it's a pretty easy transition to move from a lecturing to a class to online video social media presentations, the truth is it really isn't. But I tried to build my competency behind the camera through each presentation I uploaded. I mean, you can actually see some of the earlier presentations were, just a bit rough around the edges. And as I move forward, some of the newer ones are quite a bit more polished. Well, maybe not to the same level of polished like something coming from the Daily Wire or Louder with Crowder, but there was an improvement over the earlier stuff. And I hoped that the polishing was all that was really needed to gain the viewership that is needed to get monetized and get seen. Well, that was a mistake. Now, some of you may be thinking to yourself, and I want you to understand that this has also crossed my mind more than a few times, why did this channel not propagate on social media? Well, there's quite a few reasons, most of which are beyond my control, but we'll go over them so you know why I am closing up shop. First, you have social media companies that voluntarily stifled or promoted some voices based off of their political leanings. And the way I lean is contrary to the way most social media companies lean. So, of course, the Office of the Patriot Channel is not going to get the same level of exposure that a newly started liberal Democrat political channel would get. Well, here's an example.
You can't have that cookie, Elmo. Rocco wants to eat it. How? How is Rocco going to eat that cookie, Zoe? Tell Elmo. Rocco doesn't even have a mouth. Rocco's just a rock. Rocco's not alive.
My name's Deja Fox. I'm a content creator, digital strategist, and political it girl. I've been able to achieve what I have because of the access I have had to care that has allowed me to take control of my body and my future.
These presenters' videos get a couple of thousand views each, while I'm lucky to break 50. I spoke to this issue in a few other episodes, which I'll link in the description section below, so if you're so inclined, feel free to check them out at your leisure. The next issue is just a bit more complicated because it deals with some of the protections that social media companies enjoy as a result of the 1996 Communications Decency Act, and specifically Section 230. And I spoke to this as well, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but suffice to say that Section 230 gives a shit ton of protections to social media companies, specifically because they didn't want social media companies to be, sued into oblivion as a result of content that they do not produce that is, carried on their site. So, At face value, Section 230 seems like it's a really good idea. YouTube isn't making YouTube videos for everybody. They're allowing people to go on and make videos for everybody. So they really shouldn't be held liable for the content that is placed on their site. However, Section 230 went above and beyond this protection and granted the social media companies the latitude to pick and choose what content they want on their site. So, if they decided that some content was, say, offensive, or they termed it dangerous, or pretty much any arbitrary belief, they could remove that content and the content creator would have no recourse, me. This is the power of a publisher. Now, just to be clear, Section 230 was actually for ISPs, but again, if you want to get more in-depth into this topic, check out my other presentation on Section 230 where I get into the weeds. Now, you might be wondering, how does this affect the Office of the Patriot? Well, if I'm presenting political issues from a conservative perspective, and if somebody else is presenting from a liberal perspective, and the company hosting the presentations supports the Democrat Party, well, you can kind of guess that the chances of my presentation being promoted is going to be significantly less than the individual who is producing the liberal content. I was kind of hopeful that when Trump took office, all this would be resolved. I'm sure more than a few of you remember that Trump made assurances that Section 230 would either be amended or be repealed based off of the way many social media conglomerates are using this law. In fact, he was adversely affected by it at Twitter, pre-Musk. However, his administration has not moved forward with amending or repealing this law as of yet. So, myself and others like me who are being shadow banned or demoted or demonetized are still having to deal with the repercussions of Section 230. Now, I don't want you to think that nothing is being done, but it's in the hands of the courts right now. There are Section 230 abuse cases that are currently going through the courts, and right now, it appears that one of the next ones, if the Supreme Court decides they want to take on that case, would be between YouTube and PragerU. In a nutshell, YouTube is claiming because they are a private entity, they are not subject to the requirement of allowing free speech on their platform, like government is. And if you looked at this through the lens of a free open market, well, it kind of makes sense. However, here's the rub. The federal government, as well as state and local governments, already have laws that limit the freedom of private business beyond what individuals enjoy. And I'll explain. If you don't want any white people, black people, brown people, short people, or tall people to enter your private property, you are entirely within your rights to deny them entry, no matter if it's morally reprehensible. Conversely, if you own a business, you do not have that right. I'll go a step further. As a private citizen, you are not required to make ADA accommodations on your property for anyone. However, if you have a brick and mortar business that allows for public access and your business property does not have accommodations for people with disabilities, well, guess what? You could be in violation of the law. So, as you can see, just because YouTube is a private business doesn't necessarily mean that YouTube has all the protections an individual would have. They have billed themselves as a platform, and according to the government, they fall within the protections of Section 230. But Section 230 may be faulty for allowing protections that fall outside the scope of the First Amendment. The Supreme Court has already determined what is and what is not protected speech. So there's the rub. I'm of the mind that Section 230 has outlived its usefulness. When social media platforms act as publishers, they should be treated as such. And if they are billing themselves as the virtual town square, and we all know town squares are public domains, then they should not have the ability to censor any speech unless that speech falls outside the protections already established by our Constitution. But that's just me. we'll have to wait and see what the court says or what Donald Trump does. That said, continuing to produce content when this channel has no real hope of gaining any traction because YouTube and a number of other social media platforms hide this type of content is much like running on a treadmill. You're not getting anywhere. Now comes the hard part of this presentation. I have to look at the hard, fast truth that there is a possibility when it comes to my skills as a political commentator that... You suck! Yeah, that. Suffice to say, this may be a little bit self-flagellating, but it may also be true. Just because I enjoy the work doesn't necessarily mean that everybody else will enjoy the end product. But until Section 230 is repealed or amended, I won't know whether or not it's my fault, social media's fault, or a combination of both of our faults for this channel's failure to thrive. Now, I'm not going to close down the Office of the Patriot Channel completely. People will still be able to watch existing presentations that are on YouTube or on Rumble until they decide they want to remove them of their own volition. However, I'm not going to have regular uploads from this point on. If something strikes my fancy, or I don't know, find myself yelling at the TV as a result of some politically stupid move, I may dust off my lights, my microphone, and go back to presenting again. As I said, I really enjoy it. And finally, I want to take a second to publicly thank my wife, who has put up with everything I had to do to make this channel possible. Not batting an eye when I bought the artwork for the logo, the QR code, the video audio editing software. Hell, she even bought this mic for me a couple of Christmases ago. And not once has she given me any crap about the Office of the Patriot having a negative or net negative cash flow. And I want to also thank all the people who took the time to like, subscribe, and comment every time I asked. Each one of those likes and subscriptions and comments actually kept me going just a little bit longer. And well, I guess in the end, that's all I could really hope for. This concludes today's episode of Office of the Patriot. If you enjoyed the presentation, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share this channel on your social media. It is appreciated. Also, please take the time to comment. Viewer engagements via comments is a major metric, or rather the major metric, for channel accessibility on most social media platforms like this one, Facebook, X, and MeWe. The more people that like, subscribe, and comment, the more this channel will come up when social and political content like this is searched for. And as always, have a blessed day and stay safe out there.